What's going on, Chess YouTube? In today's video, Magnus Carlsen checkmates Bill Gates in just 12 seconds. And no, this is not clickbait. Magnus Carlsen and Bill Gates played a game of chess in 2014, and Magnus Carlsen delivered a brutal checkmate in just 9 moves and 12 seconds. Now, when I first saw this game, I felt like I was watching Conor McGregor knock out Jose Aldo in just 13 seconds in the first round. I was completely shocked.
Smiling. Oh! She slipped it!
Now, diving into the game. In the game, Bill Gates was playing as white. He opens 1e4. Good start for Bill Gates, and Magnus Carlsen already on move 1 throws a curveball, and he goes for the move, knight to c6. Now, if you've never seen this move, this is called the Nimzovich defense against 1e4. It's not actually that bad. It's just almost never seen at the highest level. Now, from here, white has 2 main options. One is to take the center with the move d4, and the other option is to go knight f3. Now, in the game, Bill Gates goes knight f3. Not a bad move at all. And from here, Magnus Carlsen has a big choice. Does he want to go for the move e5 or d5? Now, if he went for e5 in this position, that would transpose to an e4, e5 opening or the open games. And from here, Bill Gates could go for the Italian. He could go for the Roy Lopez with the move bishop to b5. Both these are very good options. But instead of this, Magnus Carlsen, again, he is trying to throw Bill Gates a curveball in this game. He goes for the move d5. Now, this is the pure Nimzovich move, and we get sort of a Scandinavian defense with the moves knight f3 and knight to c6 included. Now, this is very good for white, as in the Scandinavian, white typically wants to have that knight on the f3 square. However, black does not want the knight on c6, as typically the pawn on c7 wants to go to c6 in the Scandinavian. So with that being said, the best move here in this position is simply taking that pawn on the d5 square, transposing to a Scandinavian. However, Bill Gates does not go for that. Instead, he plays the move bishop to d3. Now, the idea of this move is it does defend the e4 pawn. However, that is a very suspect square for the bishop. And already, Magnus Carlsen has the chance to punish Bill Gates on move 3 with the incredible move knight to b4, hitting the bishop and defending the pawn on d5. Now, this would have been the best move in the position, knight to b4. However, Magnus does not find that move. Instead, he goes for the other idea, knight to f6, developing the knight from g8 to the f6 square. And knight to f6 is simply not the strongest move in this position. I mean, the big problem with this move is if Bill Gates was sagacious enough, he would find the key idea, e5 here. Now, this move obviously hits the knight. Now, the best move is to retreat the knight back to the d7 square, but then white can go bishop b5, and suddenly white has a very good version of a Steinitz French defense. Of course, in the Steinitz, black is going to want to have that pawn on the c5 square, fighting for the center. However, here, that knight on c6 blocks that from happening. White's going to follow up with d4. He may even take on c6, doubling black's pawns, and white has a very natural-looking game. But as fate would have it, instead of that, here on move 4, Bill Gates takes on d5. Magnus takes back with the queen. And yes, Bill Gates is technically still doing okay here. However, this is exactly what Magnus Carlsen wanted against Bill Gates. He wanted his queen out in the center of the board as fast as possible so he could deliver a brutal checkmate. And as fate would have it, that is what happened. Here, Bill Gates, knight c3, very logical looking move, hitting that queen on the d5 square. Now, where is the queen going to go? Well, Magnus goes queen h5. Now, typically in the Scandinavian, you want to go queen to a5. That's probably the best square for the queen. However, in this position with the bishop on the d3 square, suddenly h5 is an excellent square for the queen. The idea behind this move is now the bishop wants to be on the e2 square, but if Bill Gates goes bishop e2, that is a waste of a tempo. Of course, the bishop going to d3 and then back to d2. Now, interestingly enough, bishop e2 is the best move in this position. However, Bill Gates does not go for that. He goes for the move short castles, and this is very, very risky. The problem with this move is all of black's pieces are just lining up on the king side, and here Bill Gates is just castling into the attack with no regard for what Magnus is doing. I mean, typical beginner strategy. You're just playing moves on the board without really respecting your opponent's threats and ideas. Now, from here, Magnus has many different ideas he could do. There's a very dangerous idea of g5 intending g4. There's also bishop d6, and there's also the idea of bishop d7 simply intending long castling and then deciding how to continue the attack. However, instead of those, here, Magnus Carlsen immediately pins the knight on the f3 square to the queen with the move bishop to g4. Now, once again, in this position, Bill Gates simply has to go bishop e2, getting rid of that pin on the knight and freeing up the d-pawn to enter into the game. However, Bill Gates, he is just playing with fire here. He kicks the bishop with the move h3. Now, this is objectively not a good move because here black can simply take on f3, and after white takes back with the queen, he responds queen takes f3, doubling the pawns on the f-file. For example, real fast, bishop takes f3, then queen takes, g takes, and suddenly Bill Gates has those doubled isolated pawns on the f-file, the isolated pawn on the h-file, and this is just no good for white. I mean, Magnus Carlsen is the best endgame player in the world, probably of all time, and he would just clean up here. But instead of that, Magnus Carlsen is not satisfied with winning in the endgame. He wants to win right here, right now in this blitz game, and he goes for it with the move knight to e5. Now, objectively, this move knight to e5 is a massive blunder from Magnus Carlsen. It simply loses a piece. So what the heck was Magnus Carlsen's idea here? Well, let's find out. Here, Bill Gates plays the best move in the position. Well done, Bill. He takes that bishop on g4. H takes g4. Now Magnus responds, taking back with the knight on f6. And obviously, if Magnus Carlsen was to move here, he would take the knight on f3, then go queen h2, delivering checkmate. So how the heck is Bill Gates supposed to defend here? Well, it turns out the best move is actually rook to e1. You're basically ignoring that whole sequence, knight takes f3 and queen h2 checkmate. So let's see what happens here. If Magnus takes on f3, Bill Gates would take back with the queen. Then after queen h2, suddenly the white king has the f1 square to retreat to. And now if we go through the best line, queen h1, king e2, queen h5. Here, Bill Gates has an unbelievable finish to the game if it got this far. That is the move bishop b5 check. Now the best move from Magnus is c6, trying to block it, but then Bill Gates could simply sacrifice the bishop on c6, take with the queen, take the rook on h8, and basically win the game on the spot. So Bill Gates, if he found that idea of rook to e1, that would basically win on the spot. There is just no coming back from this for black. However, that is not what happened in this game. Of course, here on move 9, Bill Gates took the knight on e5, and that move is more embarrassing than my haircut during my freshman year of college. It is just awful because now Magnus Carlsen, queen h2, checkmate. Magnus winning the game in 9 moves, 12 seconds total, faster than Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo. Incredible stuff. Wow, what a game by Magnus Carlsen. Now, before you go, check out my Magnus Carlsen playlist, and I will see you in the next video.